Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this new episode of Beyond Profit. I'm your host, Jean-Christian Andoni, CEO of Symbiosis Infinity Group. And today we are delighted to have Kathy Eastwood, CEO and founder of E equals Y. We saw each other last Friday, so it's just been over the weekend. So thank you for joining us. Before I let you, introduce yourself and tell us more about you, I'd like to welcome everyone here today, taking some of your precious time on this Monday. We're talking that it's already almost the end of November. Christmas is around the corner, so I guess it's the last stretch before the holidays. So we thank you for taking the time to join us. Please, drop a comment on in the comment section. Tell us where you're joining us from. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them as well in the comment section. We'll do our best to cover them during the show. If not, we'll do that after the show. And without further ado, Kathy, welcome. Thank you for joining.
Thanks so much for having us. It's great to see you, and it's only been a couple of days, but I'm
Yeah,
excited
it's
about
only
having
been
this
a couple of
conversation
days.
again.
Correct. Well, thank you for joining. Please, tell us more, a little bit more about yourself and your journey towards conscious leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've had an interesting career. I started as a CPA, and then my last corporate role was actually a chief people officer. And in between all of that, I was helping organizations drive change. I always seemed to be the one that got in the middle of, oh, Kath, we have this big initiative. Can you come help us and drive this change? And throughout all of that, what I learned was whenever we're driving change, people are key to that success. So I really look at how do we help leaders be successful and drive that change by caring about their people. And so after my last official corporate gig, I was making a decision of what do I want to do? Do I want to do another role like a chief people officer? Or do I want to help more organizations and individuals elevate their game and show up where they know they want to drive change, but they know people are key to their success? And so that's why I started E equals Y, to help companies and leaders really show up as the best version of themselves, to elevate others and drive change.
Beautiful. I love the evolution and your continuous commitment to creating change, or also we call it like kind of an upgrade in the leadership style of companies. Um, you know, when it comes to conscious, there's a lot of buzzword and there's a lot of coaching out there, a lot of different method about how to enhance leadership, how to become more efficient, how to become more, I would say, in line with your values. So, with what you do at E equals Y, and with your own, if you compare that to your own values, what do you think is the true essence of a conscious leader? And how do you see emotional and spiritual intelligence shaping this essence?
Yeah, I mean, conscious leadership, I was introduced to it, it's over 8 years ago now, when I met a group at the Conscious Capitalism group. But what I learned, and something that was always core to me, is that people are at the heart of everything we do. And we really need to think about that when we're serving our teams, right? So if we have direct reports, when we're working with our peers, our stakeholders, our community. I mean, you could take this up to the planet. Um, and what I've learned is logic doesn't move people, emotions do. And if you really don't have that emotional and spiritual intelligence, yeah, you can command people to do something and you can use fear to get them to move. But if you don't
Mhm.
connect to their hearts, then we're really not going to be able to deliver the long-term results that we all crave. So that's why I always think that logic doesn't move people, emotions do. And that's what's at the core of conscious leadership, is how do you connect to the hearts of others?
Yeah, that's very well said, and I think also this is a point that we touched last Friday when we talked about, how what it means to be a conscious leader is you have to connect with the heart, not just with the mind, and you can have to connect, at an emotional and also spiritual level, in order to really have a profound impact and a profound bond with the people that you work with. That is not just surface level. That means it's one thing to have the same values, but it's another thing to be able to communicate those values through the heart, which is a very important, I would say, energy center in every being that we are, and that we tend to forget how to use as such, and use our brain and our mind more than anything else. But when you lead from the heart, it becomes kind of a healing space, I would say, for people to also embrace their values, and their strength, and the challenges that they are to overcome.
Yep, agreed.
Great. And of course, this comes with a lot of, I would say, inner work to be done. It's not necessarily easy to be able to really connect to your own intuition, to your own spiritual and emotional resonance that you have. And it demands, dedication and work. So, what do you do personally as a conscious leader to really invite this heart resonance in the way you conduct your workshops, or in the way you approach your clients?
Yeah, it all starts with awareness and self-awareness and self-reflection. And quite honestly, Jean-Christian, we talked about this on Friday and a lot of the work that you do. It's about knowing yourself first and foremost. And, that can be done through self-reflection, through journaling. For us, one of the things that we help our clients look at is we have an E3 leadership profile, which is a methodology to go through and really ask yourself, what are your values? What are your experiences? What are your behaviors? How do you love to show up? Because leadership isn't a mold. And so often we think, oh, we have to fit this mold. And I have to be outgoing. I have to be very strong and dominant and, tell everyone what to do. But in reality, strong and conscious leadership is about knowing yourself and showing up how you are going to excel, right? So if you're an introvert and that's where you get your energy, you need to know that, and you need to really set yourself up for success and say, this is who I am. This is how I like to show up. These are my attributes.
Yep.
And then understand how those also show up to others, right? So I say that's knowing yourself is your intent. I intend to show up as caring. I always give the example. I have a lot of red energy. I run to the fire. I'm like, got to get stuff done. I'm a driver. But that can come across as bossy. It can come across as arrogant, but that's not my intent. So that inner work is knowing, okay, this is how people are going to perceive me potentially. So I need
Yep.
to let them know, hey, I might, like, this is my energy. I'm a nurturing driver. I want to get stuff done, but I
Yep.
care. So if I go too far, let me know and pull me back. And so that inner work of being a conscious leader is knowing yourself, knowing how others see you, and then giving others permission to say, that doesn't land with me. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there is, a difference between how we might think we communicate who we are and how people perceive us. So we have to really also pay attention to the way we want to show up, and to what are the intentions behind showing up, that, and also having clear communication with the people that we work with, so that they don't misunderstand why we might come across strong, or why we might come across soft, and who we really are inside, and what we're trying to communicate through this pattern that we have, because we all have different patterns that we do consciously or subconsciously, depending on our experience and our programming. And it's very important to recognize those patterns, and make sure that along the way you do what's necessary to come across as you really want people to see you.
Absolutely.
Great. So just a quick one. We have Ralph from New York, and we have Shreya Patel from SWC Infotech. Thank you for joining us, Ralph and Shreya. Please don't be shy. Don't hesitate to drop where you're joining us from. And if you have any questions along the way, feel free to drop them in the comments as well. Now, we talk a lot about values, and we are both cooperating with Eva Anderson from the Value Based Institute, and this is a very important organization that we are very proud to cooperate with when it comes to spreading the right values of conscious business and conscious leaders. But it's one thing to have values, but it's another thing to actually embody them in every decision. So, how do you think leaders can effectively and efficiently put their values consider their values into every decision that they take for their business?
Yeah, I think the first thing, and I think a lot of us make an assumption, I hate to say this, that we have values, right? Like I recall this specifically when I had left corporate, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a value-based person. I grew up in a household, where values were important, but we used it very high level, if you will. Like, yes, I'm value-based. But to really go down and define, what does it mean? What does a value mean to you? What are your values? So doing that self-reflection to know that, I think, is so important. And then sharing it with others is the next thing. Because when you share it with others, that's how you start to live it. Because if you do something or say something that seems contradictory to what you're saying your values are, then someone else can help you be accountable for it.
Sure.
The other thing I do is really revisit them every morning. So I have my affirmations and I will state my values. My values are MTXE is one of them, mental toughness, extra effort. The other one is my wake up every morning to inspire and enable others. Anything is possible with perseverance and hard work, right? So these are things that I wake up every morning and make sure they're top of mind, and then reflect at the end of the day. Did I live my values today? Because that's a great way to really set the intention in the morning and then reflect in the evening.
I do exactly the same when it comes to, every morning. I think it's very important to wake up every morning with an intention of how do I want to feel today? How do I want to show up today for me and for the people around me? And because we all get busy and we all deviate from the intention that we might set for the day. And it's important to have this anchor throughout your day, because when you find yourself drifting away from this intention, then you have something to come back to, and then you don't, overthink, or you can control your thoughts in a much better way. And before going to bed, being grateful about your day, praying for your blessings, is also the best way to have a peaceful night, because when your brain is actually focused on what's working and what's positive in your life, then you come to a theta state that's much more profound, and be able to really have a great night of sleep that gives you a good reset. So
Great.
beautiful. Just quickly, we have Tom from New Jersey, and we have Emily Adams for joining us. Thank you so much. Emily commented, "What a great self-reflection on what does the value mean to you." Thank you, Emily, for your comments. Do not hesitate to drop your questions or comments along the way. We're super happy to interact with you. One thing that we started discussing earlier that we can come back to, because I think this is at the core of, a lot of the inner work that as conscious leaders we need to have is it's emotional intelligence. So far, I think that the business world has been, at least for the past 20 years or so, has been dominated by more like a divine masculine type of energy, strength, authority, firmness. And now I think that we're moving more towards a divine feminine type of energy, with intuition, with softness. And of course, we all have divine masculine and divine feminine energy within us. We just have need to learn how to balance it. So how do you explain, the power of, I would say, the divine feminine and building trust and authentic relationships at the workplace, and how important do you think it is to really balance being strong, firm, but also soft and more intuitive at the same time?
Yeah, John Kirsten, you said a word that I think is so key for strong and conscious leadership is the balance,
Yeah,
right? And I talk about the fundamentals of strong leadership, and that is number one. And it is about, you got to get stuff done, right? There's performance, you have to deliver results,
yeah,
but there's a way you go about it. You have a choice, right? And you could be fear-based. You can use that command and control, that masculine, do this, and we're going to just focus, but it has a short-term impact, right? People respond and they're like, okay. But when you can build trust,
yeah,
I've learned that's really when people suddenly want to show up,
yeah,
right? So now this becomes the long-term impact and what we need to do, right? We need to be thinking long-term and the
yeah,
win-win-win across the board. And so when you build that trust and people know, wait a minute, you have my back. I know why we're doing it. This is a purpose-driven business. It's a purpose-driven project, anything. And you have my back, and I feel included, and I feel like you're going to hold others accountable. That to me is when we see long-term results. And that becomes a superpower, in my opinion, right? And listen, this is coming from someone that I actually possess more of the masculine energy of do, 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 do. And I am learning every day, I'm practicing to bring the divine feminine energy to sit back and relax and to listen and to be. And we get a lot more done in that space of creativity, than when we're just trying to power through to just do it at all costs.
yeah. Beautifully said, and I think this is also what we touched on Friday is, and this balance within yourself, this alignment within yourself, which is something that doesn't, that comes more naturally for some people, but for some other people, we need to work on it. Like I know I need to work on my balance on a daily basis, and if I skip one day of mindfulness practice, I can feel it right away. And but it's all a matter of knowing yourself, right? Know oneself and know the self. And once you know your light side and your shadow side, and when you are doing this mindfulness work to be in balance between your divine masculine and divine feminine, then it really becomes easier to show up in the way that you want to show up, and all the proper space in order to create and foster trust within the organization. Trust is everything. I also fully agree with you that trust is a very important matter at the workplace and, of course, outside the workplace. I always say there is one thing that I've noticed in my life in terms of trust is, you know, giving the trust is easily lost, but it's hard to get. So putting trust into someone, it takes a lot of commitment, and it also takes a lot of time to be able to trust someone in your workplace and say, oh, whatever's going to happen, this person has my back, and then you don't have to worry about what's going to happen with him or her. What is he going to say? Because we know that there is a trust relationship happening, and this is very important. So happy to have so many comments. Thank you, guys. So we have Ralph, just quickly. Katy, it's so easy to just look at the bottom line and compromise, cut corners. Any advice on how to inspire the rest of a team to remain true to their values and not fall victim to doing what's easy for the short term?
Yeah, this one, I'd love to hear your points of view on this, Jean Christian, as well. And because I think this is the biggest challenge people have, right? We're in a society now that wants quick wins, right? And it's like, well, we've got to make that number. We need to reach the goals. We have to grow at an exponential number. Like it's not a long-term vision, unfortunately. But what I've found is helping people really express the end vision and gain that vision together as a team, right? So I know you talk a lot about purpose driven, right? We're part of Shiftco and Terry Maxwell of making sure that we're living our purpose. I think when we can express that purpose of why we're here, what we're doing, what's going to be different, that's how we ground our teams to stay close to their values and to think, 10 steps ahead rather than the immediate, is this going to solve the problem right now? But when we can come back to our values and look at it from the long term, that helps ground not just ourselves as leaders, but the entire organization, right? And the teams.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And cutting corners. I've never been a big believer in cutting corners, as Ralph said. Of course, cutting corners, you might be able to gain benefits and reap the benefits on the short term. But what we're looking for is sustainability here, because when you're a conscious leader and you're purpose driven, it's easy to try to say, okay, I need results because results equal impact for us, and we want to also have the biggest impact as soon as possible because we know that what we do changes the life of people. So we're always very eager to fast, but as we said, sustainable results don't happen overnight, and there is no cutting corners when it comes to also your personal development. And I've experienced it myself. If you try to just say, oh, okay, for example, I'm on a healing journey and I want to heal as fast as possible. No, it doesn't work this way, because then your healing will not be fully integrated into who your true self is supposed to be and who you're supposed to be. But when you take the time, when you go step by step and you don't burn any step that you're supposed to burn, then it becomes a much more integrated and sustainable effects about who you are and who you're becoming. So that's very important. We have a lot of comments here. LinkedIn user, I don't know who that is, but I'll check out after. Agree with that 100%, Cathy. Victor, hello, Victor. Thank you for your greetings. Bonjour, Jean-Christian. Trust is huge. Jean agreed. And we have Michelle, part of Shiftco with us. Loves that, Cathy. Why we are here helps ground values. So absolutely, it's all about staying grounded, about grounding the values and making sure that they are sustainably core and part of the team and the organization. One thing, one topic that's on the agenda, not the agenda, but on the tongue of a lot of people, and we hear that a lot because it is kind of a worldwide issue, is the issue of stress at work. We are all facing that. We are all under pressure, especially in big corporate organization, but also we as founders. There's a lot of stress that we need to go through. So when a leader is facing emotional stress, what practice do you do or you recommend them to do in order to stay focused and grounded?
Well, I'll go back. So one of the things that I really look at is what I call the E3 leadership code. And it is to make sure we all remember the basics. Because I say leadership is not necessarily complex, but it's hard to do. And it is about going back to the basics. And so there's 3 steps that I think are so important for us to remember as leaders. We talked a little bit about it as, staying grounded, but expressing the end vision. So the first E is express that end vision and that purpose and the why, because that always helps us come back to where we are. And so when we get tangled up in the details and the chaos, we're like, why are we here? We're questioning life in general. When we can come back to that express vision, then that gives us a good sense of where we're going, reminds us of the bigger things. Second is engaging people, right? How do we engage people the way they want to be engaged? I'm often challenging leaders to ditch the golden rule, which is great, which is treat others the way you want to be treated, but we should treat people the way they want to be treated. I think I'm not sure if you had posted it, right? The platinum rule. And then there's now a diamond rule as well, but treat others the way they want to be treated. And then you do have to execute and you have to get stuff done. But I always look at it, we got to do all 3 of this simultaneously. And then at the core of it is the emotional intelligence, the spiritual intelligence. That's what amplifies all three of these elements. And that's what grounds us as leaders to come back to the basics. Because it's easy to get caught up in the day to day. But if we come back to why are we here, then we can, I call it slowing down to go fast.
I love that. Yeah, I love the slowing down to go fast, and you're right. Using your mental, emotional, and spiritual gifts in order to really be able to connect with people, as you said, not the way you want to treat them, but the way they want to have this communication and this relationship with you is very important. We are all different. We all work under different values and mechanisms, and because we all have different experiences. So what might be true for me might not resonate with you, and this is where understanding people and using your intuition, but also your emotional intelligence to be able to read people and what triggers them and what resonates with them is very important in order to really connect with them and make the best out of these relationships. We have Anna that's very active. Anna, thank you. Quickly sharing the question: can you share a practice to engage a team in a discussion about their own personal values? How do you do it? Most leaders only address the company values in meetings. I think this is a big gap. You cannot have alignment unless the whole team knows their personal values too. Yep.
I am, Anna. Yes, thank you for asking that. And the thing to do is actually have the conversation. So I'll coach teams to sit down and do the values work. So there is a spreadsheet I use with when we're doing the E3 leadership profile, but I'm happy to share it with you. Taking a list of 100 values, sitting down as a team and asking your team members to pick the top 10, and then have them break it down and go to the top 5 and go to the top 3, and then explain to each other why did you pick that value, why is it so important, and to have that explicit conversation about it. Right? Because when you start to have that dialogue, you learn so much. And if you don't mind, I'll tell you a story where I had one executive I was dealing with, and we were doing this exercise. And he had said to me before the session, he's like, Kath, my team is amazing. I love them. But I just feel like they're not jumping in to help out before I ask. I have to ask them to jump in. And so we went through this exercise around the values, and he came back and he recognized, he said, you know what? I really value family first, jumping in, because of how I was brought up. My family was everything to us. We went through a lot of bad times. And he goes, and my cousins, my aunts, my everyone, just when there was a problem, everyone flopped. And he said, I assume everyone should do that. That's how I grew up. That's what I value. And then his team members do the same thing, and they come from a fear-based culture. They don't do anything until they're asked. They don't want to step on anyone's toes. They want to make sure they don't fail. So now you have two conflicting value statements. And once they had the conversation, they were like, oh, I get it now. And he's like, I give you permission to step in. I won't hold you. If you don't do it right, that's okay. And they're like, okay, I'll give up some of my fear to jump in.
Yep.
So as a team, to have that open dialogue is empowering to everyone.
Yeah. I love the story you're telling, because it shows how much communication is extremely important. And of course, as Anna, you said, during regular meetings, it's very important to communicate the values, but also understanding what the value means for the other person, because what, for example, compassion be for me might be a different. You have a total different concept of what being compassionate is. Being loving and caring for someone means a total different thing than being loving, caring for someone else. So it's all a matter of really communicating from the heart again, and in all openness and in all transparency, and not having those, I would say, fears or inner blocks stop us from really expressing ourselves and be open to our expectations and how we want to communicate those values, not only between just employees, but also between colleagues or friends or family or anything else. And I think this goes beyond the workplace, and this is really something that can be applied to your daily life.
I agree.
Sorry, my dog wants to jump in the podcast. Push it. Push it. Sorry about that. He feels the energy. You know how dogs are. They feel the energy and they get very excited as well. Um, Great. I think we're having great discussion with great comments. So thank you so much, everyone, for interacting. As we were discussing a little bit earlier, we see that there is a shift in the world, a raise in level of consciousness, and especially in the way business is handled, and either internally or also externally. And that's why we're here also as conscious leaders, is to bring a more human-centered approach to doing business, but also embracing the softness that every leader has in him or her in order to really balance this divine masculine and this divine feminine energy. So if we look at what's happening in the world, and let's say if we look at the evolution of the leadership in either big or small companies, what do you believe leaders of the future will look like when you see either a corporate leader or a founder?
I think it is going to be that emotional and spiritual leadership is going to separate the great leaders apart, right? I think it is truly, when you think about AI coming into the workplace, right, you think about the greater demands and the efficiency that's going to be put in to the workplace, which is good, but we have to be thinking about the flip side of it.
Yep.
And so what I see is the differentiation is bringing that human side into leadership, right? Because it goes back to, there is so much fear. People are going to, if we don't pull people out with their values and with their wanting to be there and to think on their own, right, and empowering them, then we're not going to make any real difference, and we're not going to create a more sustainable conscious environment, right?
Yep.
And so we need to keep focusing on that and moving forward. And I'm already hearing it, right? I think there's a lot of talk, and you see a lot of that command and control style still trying to dominate, I think is probably the right word, but I think it's the last gasp, right, of
Yeah.
air. Our good friend Terry Maxwell talks about it, and as far as people are scared, they're scared that they're going to lose control. But the reason they're scared is they know that when you show up emotionally and spiritually and bringing all of yourself authentically, you actually are more successful. And it's not always the easiest thing to do, but you actually drive more results when you do that. And so it's that fear speaking for those that are not willing to take those steps forward.
Well, I love this your answer, because it really shows, and that's what we discussed on Friday also. It really shows that it all starts with you, right? As a person, as a human being, as a soul, and to be able to really achieve this oneness and this total integration of who you are, and to be really authentic, and no matter what. And this is something that everyone, I think, needs to learn along the way, because it's all, they say that authenticity has the highest frequency vibration in the whole universe. And after it's love, and third it's gratitude. So being authentic, when you show up authentically in a boardroom or in a meeting, people immediately feel it. Then it really creates this element of trust, because if you are someone who's not scared of showing up as yourself, that means you're comfortable with yourself. That means you know yourself. That means that you're going to bring, everything on the table that is true, genuine, authentic, and sustainable as well. And I think you're right in this sustainability aspect is extremely important, simply because we are moving beyond quarterly results. We are moving beyond, profit at all cost, because we understand that businesses now have a responsibility to really create a better environment within their own organization, but also outside. And I think this is where all the pieces of the puzzle fit together. The first piece of the puzzle is you, and people, please always remember that.
Well, we talked on Friday a bit about the infinity loop, right? And how
Yes.
you focus on that. And I call it the virtuous cycle. Ken Blanchard calls it the leadership profit chain. But when you focus on people first and you really take care of your people, they then take care of your customers. Then
Exactly.
when your customers are engaged and happy, they're
Yeah.
buying more, they're referring, then the profits will follow, right? And so often we think, oh, we're going to go profit first. Well, actually, if you go people first, that's what drives the profits of a business. And it's been proven that companies that are human first, high performing cultures are 23% more profitable than a company that's not. So this isn't about feeling good. I mean, yes, that is a big part of it. Don't get me wrong. But I think a lot of people think performance and people are two separate paths. Either you're going to be a performance driven leader or you're a people centric person. But it's actually both. It's not an either or. And when you do both, that's when you succeed. And that's the point I think we need to help leaders understand, that it is about being both and having all of that balance. That is where success comes in.
Exactly. Well, very well said, because it's never all black or all right, all white, right? You really need to find that balance between your leadership style, between your values, and between how you show up in the world, and also balance within yourself. And again, it all starts with yourself. If you do not have inner balance, how can you bring balance to your leadership style, to your team, to your purpose, to the growth of your company? And um, it's good that you reminded all our viewers today that you can be, people centered and make more profit as well, because I think this is something that people around the world don't necessarily know. But once you're aware of that, then it gets easier to commit to this type of practices and this leadership style. Anna is sharing something with us. I thank you, Anna, for interacting so much. Can I share the heart rule? Treat others the same way you want them to treat your loved ones. That's, yeah, very beautiful. Definitely, yeah. Reciprocity is a very important part of any human relation, and I have to say that if there's, in business relation, like in human relation, whether you're in a relationship or with a friendship or even people at work, if there is no reciprocity, then it really becomes very difficult to build trust. It becomes difficult to really feel, I would say, understood, and then to be able to open more. So
Yeah.
thank you, Anna, for sharing that. And Michelle, at the comment, this is a wonderful conversation. How do you recommend leaders help their teams deal with their fears? That's a very good question, Michelle.
I love that question. Thanks, Michelle. Um, I like to help a lot of leaders realize that we all bring to the table fear, ego, uncertainty, and doubt, the feud. And the first thing is to recognize it. Recognize our own feud, right? That what's getting in the way of ourselves. Because when we can recognize it in ourselves, then we can look for the cues and clues with others. But one of the things is to actually have conversation, right? I know this, but sit down with your team. What do you feel full of? Tell me, what you might be fears. Um, what are you bringing from other jobs, right? So when someone says to me, Kath, so and so's not on board, they don't care, they're not engaged, blah blah blah. I'm like, what are they fearful of? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I guarantee you there is something out there that they're fearful of. It could have been in the last job. They could have lost their job or think they lost their job because they didn't do something. It could be their parent lost the job because of something. Like, there's so much fear out there that our job is to be a detective and to understand and give them that space to share it. Because when we can name it, that's when we can discuss it. We can understand, then we can choose the right words to help alleviate. I understand you're fearful of that. and just address it and approach it and say, have you considered this? My intention is this. I don't mean to trigger you, but is this a trigger? And so just opening the dialogue is step one. And so many leaders are scared because that's, building trust. That's having an open dialogue. But you unlock so many things by just asking the questions.
Great answer, Michelle. I hope that this answer was satisfying for you. And here, I think we touch on a very important point. We all come, we all come with baggage in life. We all come with trauma. We all come with fears. And you mentioned something very important: is put your finger on it, put a word to it. What is this fear? How does it make you feel? And once you recognize that, and you recognize that this brings you a certain pattern in the way you show up in life, then you're really able to say, oh, but wait, this is why I reacted this way, and this is why I don't want to go there because of the past experience. But once you put the finger on it and you understand it and you recognize the mental blockages that this pattern is bringing to your life, then you're starting to able to heal. And at the root of every fear and every trauma, there is an event, whether it is yours or whether it is passed from generations, because it's said that generational trauma is passed on like 11 generations behind. So it might very well be that it's something that your great great grandpa or great great grandma had, and it was just passed on to you. But you have to recognize the pattern and put the finger on it and say, hey, this is it. And what can I do to, resolve that trauma? What can I do to overcome this fear so that I can show up as my authentic self in the world without having the baggage of something that is not mine or that was triggered in me, but not, by me. So that's very important. We have here a LinkedIn user. If your style as being discussed here does not align with a command or control CEO, how do you suggest we approach? Very good question.
That's a great question. And I'll tell you, I was in one of those situations. So I have a couple of different answers, and I think it's layered, right? One is you have to be true to yourself, and really know yourself. I think, Jean-Christian, everything we talk about, right, comes back to self-reflection, knowing yourself first and foremost. What are your values? What do you care about? How do you want to show up? And you can continue to be that way with yourself, with your team, with your peers, and even with your CEO at times, right? Is going back to the basics of what are we doing? Why are we doing it? What's it going to look like? And try to manage all the different directions, right? 360 around, and be true to yourself. If you find out that you're not able to be yourself, that's when you have to make a decision, right? So I had a scenario that one day I yelled at my team, which I never yelled at my team. And I said, I don't know why, just do it. And I knew that was no longer true to myself. And that's when I had to leave, quite honestly, because that was a toxic environment that was going to change who I was, and then made that decision to move on and work only with people that got it. So there are ways to absolutely, I don't want people to think the only way to avoid it is to leave. I think it's so important to know yourself, to show up the right way for you, your team. But also, one of the big things that I've seen is respecting that CEO has a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt themselves. That most CEOs are not showing up with bad intent, right? So they're not coming in to tell you what to do to make you feel bad, but they have a lot on their plate. And so, one of the most compassionate things you can do for someone that is showing up with command and control is ask them how you can help. What's happening? Can I do anything differently? What does success look like for us together? And then you can disarm them, right? Because they're never going to tell you they're fearful. A CEO typically won't. Maybe, hopefully they do, and hopefully we are in a society, but disarm them. How can I help you? I'm here to support you and serve you. and then drive that conversation.
I love this what you just said, because people don't want to be vulnerable usually. It's hard for us to open up, for most of us to open up and to feel that we're vulnerable towards expressing our own emotions and really be able to open up so that people understand us. But at the same time, it's only through this vulnerability that you'll be allowed for the other person to really understand how you feel and what they can do to make you feel better, or to have a better communication style that really suits you, so that there is a common understanding. But it's only through opening yourself and opening your heart and be ready to be vulnerable that you can do this. And I think this is something that is truly embraced in a human condition. We don't want people to know how we feel, because we've been living in a society that, especially for men, where you're not supposed to show your emotions. You're supposed to be, strong at all times. Don't cry, don't shout. But hey, we're all human beings, and whether you're a man or a woman, you will have emotional resistance to what you do or how you show up. And the most important is to be good with yourself and to be gentle with yourself as well. Yeah.
But there's a great exercise to do. Is just simply defining the best leader you've ever worked with or engaged with. 9 times out of 10, everyone's going to come back. They were authentic. They showed some kind of vulnerability. You felt comfortable. You could trust them. So that's the leader we want to work with.
Yeah.
So that's the leader we need to learn to be.
Yeah. Brilliant. I love this. So it's Tom, actually. Sorry, Tom, because I have you as LinkedIn user. So it's Tom Anthony. Thank you. Tom Anthony says, I love that answer, Kathy. I echo that. Michelle said, yes, great insight in addressing what people are living and working with. Well, that's what we're here for, is really to have this type of conversation going and this exchange, because as we also said on Friday, it's all about human connections. It's all about the people that we meet along the way. It's not just about the destination. It's about the journey and who we connect with in this process, and how we grow together as a conscious community to really make a difference and show up authentically in the world. And I think that, we all need the help we can get, and the people along the way and the circumstances to keep on moving every day, thinking about our why and why we do this. And in our best days, like in our worst days, we have to remember that we are never alone, even if sometimes the life of a founder of a small company can be challenging and lonely. But we have to remember that we have beautiful communities around us. We mentioned Terry Maxwell and Shifco. Those people that are watching us and do not know Terry and what Shifco does, please check them out. Terry Maxwell, Shifco. We have Thomas Heckschmidt, the Conscious Business Growth Certification Network, and we have Eva Anderson and the Value Based Institute. That are all wonderful organizations that we are so proud to be associated with, and that really drive this conscious business initiatives worldwide to really create strong and engaging communities, so that we can all feel part of a big tribe, as people like to call it. If you have one final message to people that are watching us and that are thinking about really going down the conscious leadership path but don't know how to get connected to their purpose, what would be your message? How can they do it? And what is the first step that they need to take in order to go towards that direction for their life?
I think it can be as simple as journaling, right? And we talked about this, right? Just start to know yourself. There are tools, like we have the E3 leadership profile that helps people, but you have to define, what are your values? Why do I care? What's my purpose in life? Why do I get up? What would I love? All my friends joke at me with me, but I'm like, what would you love? And that's the question I ask them on a daily basis. Whenever there's any conflict, they don't know what they should be doing, where to go forward. What would you love? And if we can boil everything down to what we would love, then that gives us the direction to go forward. And whether it's how we show up in the workplace, how we show up with our family, how we show up with our friends, we get so caught up in trying to please everyone and everything. But if we stay on that path of what would we love truly, and then we can stick with our purpose and our values going forward, it just allows us to live a more authentic and happier life.
Well, I love that answer, and I think it's a very strong message that we can send across to everybody that will watch also the replay and that is thinking about connecting with what they love. At the end of the day, life is short, and it's much better spent doing what you love and what you think you're meant to do, your calling, than just to trying to fit in the mold that's being brought by society or by the people around you. And it's definitely not easy to really reflect about what it is that you feel that you're meant to do in the world, what really makes you happy on a daily basis. And this is something I tell my two daughters every day. It doesn't matter if you're or a CEO or a mailman or a cashier. What matters is that you wake up every day with a sense of pride about what you do and that it makes you happy. Because then you can have a sense of self-fulfillment and that you respond to your true calling. And when you respond to your true calling, your inner calling, then your whole being is blossoming and glowing and happy. And then you can go through life in a much better position than if you would do otherwise. So that's very important. Anna is asking us, yeah, Anna, I love your question. What are some KPIs, key purpose indicators that leaders can use as foundational measures? Thank you, Anna, for this very relevant question.
Well, and I love this question, Anna, and I'm guessing that you probably have a couple that you can share with the audience as well, because I immediately went key performance indicators, right? And I love the word in there is purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the key here is what does purpose mean to you? And what does that, is it trust, that we have trust among our teams? So I often coach leaders that you should have an engagement map. Right?
Yeah.
Is everyone on board? Are they trusting? Are they engaged? Are they happy? Right? Are they performing? So it may be your engagement. Do we have an express vision? Do we know what that is? And are we making progress towards that? Sustainability, right? There's a number of different metrics that we should be looking at to know that we're driving that. Customer engagement. It depends on what is important for your business. I tend to look at it, I'm more in the technology side and the people side, but people, are they engaged? Customers, are they engaged? And are we meeting the goals that we've set forth for the organization?
Absolutely, and you touch a very good point. Now it's all about your goals. Well, I think Anna, if I can put my 2 cents into the KPIs, the key purpose indicators, it's all about the goals. Like key performance indicators and key purpose indicators are not contradictory. I think that we need to be able to measure both in order to have a really sustainable and profitable and impactful business process and organization that will not only allow to have an impact, but also to generate more profit. So here it's very important to measure both, but it's equally important. I think this is the start, and as a business practice, but also as a personal practice, is goal setting. What do we want to achieve? Why do we want to achieve it? Because if you don't set up your goals in terms of profit and impact, then it's easy to go in every direction. But you really need to be focused. And here, Terry Maxwell has taught us a lot about focus and how to focus our attention and energy on what really matters. And it's very important. So as key purpose indicators, yeah, you mentioned engagement, also retention is a very important key purpose indicator in terms of if employees are fulfilled, if they're happy to be within the organization, if they feel that they are contributing positively, then they will not leave and they will stay. So that's for within the companies themselves. After, in terms of key purpose indicators, if you look outside the companies, what we'd like to measure at Symbiosis Infinity Group is the community impact that we have. So when you choose to engage with X, Y, or Z community within your ecosystem, then you have to tell yourself, what kind of impact do we have within this community? Do we raise up the standard of living? Do we give access to grants, to education, to more housing, to healthcare, and so on? How do we contribute to the raising the standard of living of entire communities? And this is where we see, but it all depends on your goal. So it's a very relevant question, but it's a question that would need to be refined, and it's all according to the goals. So no, great conversation and a lot of comments.
I have this vision. Sorry, I have to share it now because I love your infinity loop, right? And I feel like I just have this vision of your infinity loop going bigger and bigger and bigger and like multiple layer, because it starts with yourself, right? Defining your own balance, and then it's about your team, your organization, the community, the planet. It really just, we have to be thinking bigger and broader. And I have a phrase that I use: think idealistically, not realistically, because we so often start with what's the realistic next steps, and we need to break that and think idealistically so that we can make the next logical steps to drive the change that we all want to see.
Beautiful. And I think never forget to dream big and never forget to dream, because it's, I think that we all have a little boy or little girl inside of us that always dreamt about a lot of things. And I think it's, being idealistic is, for me, it's a bit of similar of having dreams of, making an impact, of changing the world, of seeing entire communities do better, of people raising their standard of living. And don't forget about your dreams. Don't forget about, the fire that drives you inside on a daily basis. Keep it burning, keep your passions alive, keep yourself vibrant energetically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, and be happy. That's the most important, I think, no matter what happens. Great. I think this show comes to an end, and it's been an hour. You see how time flies. Crazy. An hour. Katie, any final message, any takeaways that you want our audience to have from this conversation?
I think if anybody walks away, it's self-reflection and awareness. If we were all more aware in this world, I think it would be a better place. And I am so grateful for you to have me here and let me have a chance to talk. And this has been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. No, it's my pleasure, and I have a feeling that that's the first kind of series we have, but it will not be the last. Well, perfect. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Ralph, and everybody else that joined today. You will have the replay on my LinkedIn profile, so Jean-Christian Rindoni. Don't hesitate to watch it and drop more comments or connect with us, Katie or I, or both, if you want to continue this conversation outside. Our next series will be in 2 weeks, and we'll have Rasmus Krath, who is a film producer and an adventurer, and someone that I got connected to through the Value-Based Institute, and Eva Anderson is doing some amazing work to showcasing to the world what is happening with families and immigration that are struggling and having to go on their own self-prophecy journey to be able to change their life and have a better world life for their kids. So that will be an amazing series. Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, everyone, for joining. We wish everyone a fantastic week ahead. Stay blessed and stay focused. Thank you.
So much. Appreciate it.
Take care. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye.